Speaker. It is a pleasure to rise today to participate in this debate as the representative of my community of London West, but also as a school board trustee who served on the Thames Valley District School Board for 13 years. And there is nothing I would appreciate more than having a meaningful debate about ensuring better schools and improving student outcomes. But unfortunately, Speaker, I don't think that's what we're doing here today with this legislation. If this government was actually serious about ensuring better schools and student outcomes, they would have done the consultation that would be necessary to make that happen. They would have talked to the teachers' unions, to the educators who work in our school system. They would have talked to principals. They would have talked to school board trustees. They would have talked to parents across this province, and yet we have heard nothing about a consultation that took place prior to the drafting of this bill, and we have heard nothing from the minister about what actually informed the legislation that is before us today. And I have to commend my colleague, the critic for education, the member for Ottawa West Nepean, who points out quite rightly that this government is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. It is an attempt to deflect the attention of the public away from the very critical issues that are present in our schools that face parents and young people in our province every day, and instead deflect blame onto school boards, to teacher unions, and to whoever else the government wants to assign responsibility for the problems that they have created through years of underfunding. And what we see in this legislation is the government putting well-being to the bottom of the pile. The government has no interest, this Conservative government has no interest in ensuring that students are able to function in our school system and deal with the mental health impacts, the ongoing worsening mental health impacts of the pandemic. The increasing numbers of students with special needs who are in our school system. And ensuring that every student in this province has the resources and the supports that they need to be successful. And I want to share some information, some emails that I have received from parents in London West about what is actually happening in our school system. This is a parent who said her daughter is in senior elementary. She has identified learning disabilities. She says she has, because of her learning disabilities, she has been in a particularly high needs cohort with severe behavior and mental health needs that go unaddressed annually. The particular behaviors in her cohort have led to teachers opting for early retirement, needing to access sick leave, choosing to leave the profession altogether. Sadly, the school has lost teachers 7 out of 8 years in the grade that this cohort reaches, including one teacher who was assaulted by a student and another one who passed away, unconfirmed stress-related condition. This parent asks, why is the government not providing access to reading support programs? She said that there were a number of students in her daughter's class who were struggling, yet only 6 students per year were able to access the program funded by this government to provide daily instruction. Her daughter had to wait 3 years and was almost denied as she was already in grade 6. The parent asked how many of her daughter's peers have similar literacy and numeracy learning challenges without the ability to access what we have managed to track down independently. This is a parent, a two-parent family who had the resources to get some additional support for their daughter. She says, how will the current government's underfunding education affect my daughter's future employment opportunities now that she is only 5 years away from the full-time job market? These are all very good questions, Speaker, and there are no answers for this parent in the legislation that we have before us today. The other issue that I'm hearing about in London West related to school board funding, and again, not addressed in this legislation, not addressed in the GSN, is the need to fund transportation to our schools. You know, if kids can't get to school, they're not going to be able to learn. Parent Venice Victoriano wrote to me to say, I am a mother of 2 lovely kids. My 13-year-old keeps missing school due to a school bus shortage situation, bus delays and bus cancellations. My daughter's school had 5 bus line cancellations today alone due to bus driver shortage. This email was written to me in February. She says, I urge and beg you to help increase the bus driver wages so we don't keep having this problem over and over again. The problem will only resolve once government starts paying better wages to bus drivers, so that will attract more people to work as bus drivers.
The member from Barrie in this bill.
Thank you, Speaker. Busing is not particular in this bill, so I just wanted to ask you in terms of the relevance of her comments. And I know we've, of course, done a lot of retention programming for bus drivers, but neither here or there. I just don't see it in the bill. Thank you.
I will consider that. However, I will allow the member to continue with her debate.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I was here yesterday when the minister spoke to the bill, and he did spend some time on the GSNs and what the funding was covering. I'm just pointing out some of what the funding or the GSNs are not covering that people in London West have highlighted as a gap. I heard from some school bus drivers also who say, due to a funding shortage, we have been forced to cut back on the number of buses and routes in our region. That means that often, despite my efforts and those of my colleagues, students are late or not picked up at all. He says, we are doing everything we can, but the system is under extreme pressure and it may buckle at any time. Please, for the sake of the students across this province, give the system emergency funding so that I can do my job and we won't leave kids stranded. So these are some of the issues that we are hearing about in London West. If this government really wanted to improve student outcomes, to ensure better schools in this province, they would consult with the education workers who are delivering the programs in our schools. I'm not confident that there's a simple fix to this legislation that would deliver the outcomes that we want to see, because it all comes down to engaging with the people who are supporting students in our classrooms. It is reaching out to parents to really understand what it is that parents want to see in our school system, and it is using that information to move forward in a way that meets the needs of students in the province.
Further questions? I recognize the Associate Minister of Transportation.
It's very interesting to hear the response from the member to my last question. And it shows that the NDP simply doesn't know how this actually works. You see, the Ministry of Education sends funding to the board. The board then sends it along to the schools. They are responsible for the programming decisions. It's not the government who sits here and says, let's look at these programs and see what's best for the needs of those children. It is up to the broader public sector, the school boards in this case, to make those priority decisions on what programming is best for children. That is exactly how that system works, and I know this firsthand. Because, as I said, my wife has been a teacher for over a decade and tells me how that system works, and that how the programming actually doesn't have any clarity around how those decisions are made, and parents are left in the dark when programs like reading programs are cut. Now, we know the funding is up, and you can read the budget, and you see it's 27% higher than when the last Liberal government was here. Hard stop on the facts. But the NDP wants to heckle all they want on the actual numbers, but what they can't deny is that there is no clarity for the programming now. Are they going to vote in favour of programming clarity or not?
Further response? I recognize the member for London West.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I want to remind the member, as I pointed out when I started my remarks, I was a school board trustee for 13 years. I am very well aware of how the funding works. I am very well aware that year over year, government was not providing school boards the funding that was needed to provide special education programs in our schools. Year over year, the Thames Valley District School Board was spending millions more on special education than the government was provided. And instead of dealing with that reality, instead of ensuring that students are getting the resources and supports they need, especially students with special learning needs, this government has continued to underfund, to not provide students with the critical learning supports and educators.
Further questions? I recognize